Welcome back, everyone. This is Always Average. My name is Aaron,
My name is Clay.
and after a pretty rough start, we're going to talk about taxes, everybody's favorite topic, right?
I'm so hard for taxes. I'm going to have to cut that. I'm sorry.
I'm
as soon as I
hard for
thought
taxes.
about saying
we're
that.
not cutting that one, and we're going with it. This is outtakes in intake. So
Outtake, intake.
listen, this is our third episode of the day. So if YouTube, you're going to see us wearing the same things. We do laundry, but
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have figured that it's better off for our schedules to video multiple stuff in a day.
Yeah.
So, yeah, 100% we're going to look like two homeless fellers.
I also feel like we got a good flow going right now.
Yeah.
For crypto was a little rough because it didn't record. YouTube may see that. Marijuana went very well, mainly because we took some. And no, I'm just kidding. Just-
full disclosure, we did not take any yet.
And like I said, our flow is good, and we just wanted to knock it out. So,
Yeah.
taxes.
Yeah.
It was also tax day recently, which is why I wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, and to be fair, this will come out when it comes out. You don't have to worry about that. But
Yeah.
at this point, we're not so bougie that we're just going to cut out every time that we break the fourth wall. So here we are.
So every time, so we're reminding you of your taxes about a year in advance now. So you're welcome.
Yeah, and honestly, about a week too late, literally, for this year. So you're welcome.
Yeah.
I don't.
Good job.
We didn't save anybody from like, oh shit, that's right. I do
Yeah.
have to file my taxes. Sorry, we were of no help to you this
You're
year.
going to jail. So my favorite part about taxes is, let's get on topic now, is it's like, how much do you owe us? Well, we don't really know. But if you're wrong, you go to jail.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Everyone's like, oh, something people don't like, the way our brains work, I guess, is
Yeah.
people don't think that like your tax refund is like, they stole money from you. Here it is back.
Yeah, no, 100%. So that's the thing is you always want to get if you don't like the government, that is, I guess.
Yeah.
But you always want to get to giving them as little money as possible because you have to understand the government operates like the bank. You give them your money, and then if you're lower income, we're going to break some income disparities or some income.
Words.
Yeah, we're going to break some thought processes that people have about people that make more money later on. Because everybody thinks that, the
income disparity.
Yeah, they don't pay their fair share and this, that, or the other. But I mean, the truth is that the bottom 50% only pays 3% of net income.
Yes.
Taxes or of net. Of net taxes total. So the bottom 50%, if you make basically less than $50,000, you only pay 3% of net income taxes. So essentially, I mean, it may be a good majority of your budget, but you're not paying a whole lot of money. So
in terms of the grand scheme of the amount of money we waste as a government and as a country.
Yeah. So
total tax collection.
Yeah. So we'll 100% get into all that, which I think I had a specific point to make when I was talking about the income taxation, but I don't remember what it was. So we're just going to keep rolling because that is the way we're doing it today.
Let me pull up this video here of the individual and what is spent on taxes. Do you have the total numbers there? This podcast, we're going a little bit into the information, a little more of our personal opinions on it. So this is not like a Misinformation Monday where we're specifically breaking down all the points and everything. We're just kind of we're kind of rolling with it.
Well, we're basically just two mad dudes that we went from a country of taxation as theft to, I don't know, tax us harder, daddy. Like it's gotten a little bit out of control and it's got a little bit obscene.
I mean, that was the reason that we founded ourselves is we taxation without representation. A lot of people forget that.
Yeah.
You know, like we come from a society like tax us tax us harder, daddy. That's
yeah.
And while taxes are necessary, I think our government is just like, if you look at the budget, we just what are they doing with the money?
So I think there's a way to do it, and I think most libertarians would say that like the closer you get to the individual is where everything needs to be. That's where the rights need to be. That's where the money needs to be. That's where all of it needs to be. So the question is, and I'm more likely to agree with the libertarian standpoint, is it better off in the hands of the people? Because at least the people can decide for themselves on a more individual basis. Because if you're talking about democracy, what is more democratic than people in your town deciding exactly where those tax dollars go?
Yeah.
Because you may vote for a senator, but are you voting for everything that senator says? No. But at the very least, if you're in your hometown and you're trying to fix some potholes, if your local mayor's not doing it, you could just punch him in the face, I guess. I
Yeah.
mean, you're certainly a lot closer to him than you are the senator.
Or in a non-violent manner, you could vote him out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're promoting violence here on Always Average.
Never.
Yes.
Never. But we do need to do a podcast on guns
Oh, absolutely.
because I don't know anything about them, but I would like to learn.
I probably know more than the average, a lot more than the average person.
Yeah.
But in terms of like gun nuts, they're probably going
Yeah.
to
Well,
be
yeah. But when it comes to guns, I am just as average as the podcast name suggests. I know,
Yeah.
like, surprisingly little. But
So do you want to go over this example from PBS?
bro, so as much as I liked that, it was very specific to an individual person making an individual level of income.
But I mean, I feel like that's, like you said, 50% of the...
Okay, fair enough. All right, yeah, no, that's actually, you make
Or
a
do
really
you want
good
to
point.
go over your numbers first?
Well, so I think both of the numbers coincide because especially when you said that right there, what you're saying is that is in the bottom, that's the 50%, and you're 100% right.
Yeah.
The bottom 50%, according to the numbers,
And where are you getting these from? Heritage.org?
this is heritage.org. How much, in one chart, how much the rich pay in taxes. So, and this was written in on my birthday last year, March 3rd, 2021. Okay. So, do the rich pay their fair share? Well, we're not going to get to the rich yet, but what we will say is that when it comes to income, the bottom 50% makes less than $43,600. And so your video actually very appropriately brings up how much income taxes or how much federal taxes somebody making $40,000 a year would make.
Yeah. I think they said in 2017. So again, inflation has to play a little bit factor into that. It's not going to be like $1950 as opposed to money now.
Yeah, but to be fair, what we do know is that inflation hasn't gotten better if you're paying attention.
Yeah. 20, the highest rate. And my favorite part about all that is we talked about it earlier. Senators gave themselves like a 20% raise or something like that.
Something highly grotesque.
It's like, but yeah, you still have to pay all this for gas and groceries.
And so we are by no means paying the most taxes that we've paid in the history of America. In fact, Aaron was showing me a video earlier. Income tax wasn't even a thing until 1913. Thanks a lot, 16th Amendment. I'm not for... I don't know, overthrowing governments in a violent manner, but I'm a little bit offended that there wasn't some kind of revolt
Yeah.
in 1913. I don't know. Maybe it was the precipice of the First World War.
I was going to say World War I and the Spanish flu.
Yeah.
So let's just slip that in there during
You're talking
global
what,
catastrophe.
1914 and 1918, respectively?
Well, I
respectively?
think World War I was going on before we entered it.
1914, I think, is when World War I started.
Did it?
Yeah,
Okay,
the
but
Spanish flu was...
during that time.
Yeah.
I think it was it was during World War I.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So, I mean, admittedly, you got a lot of stuff going on.
it killed like 120 million people.
Something, yeah.
Yeah. They killed the Spanish flu was like really bad.
Yeah.
So,
Probably more deadly than COVID.
not political. Not political.
Nope.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, we already did our COVID
my favorite
podcast.
part about that was it was called the Spanish flu.
Is this misinformation?
No.
Oh, geez. We're
No,
getting
but-
way too off the rails
yeah.
for not being a misinformation podcast.
Okay. Anyway, back to the graphic.
Okay, so the graphic, basically in 1981, the income tax rate was like 70%. But
So I think that was for people making $108,000, which is like twice, so 200-ish now.
Yeah. Though, so, but pretty high. I mean, 78% is pretty large, and it was like single income. So, so to be fair, you had to be a single person making a shit ton of money to be taxed that high. So, progressive income tax, I mean, it's gone up and down and whatever. That's excluding how we feel about it personally. But in 1940, it was the worst. And basically, if you had a certain level of income, you had a 94% tax rate.
Yeah. But that, understandably so, that was World War II.
Yeah.
Massive, what was the Great Depression was going on at that time, right? We were getting out of it. World War II got us out of the Great Depression.
Yeah. So from what I remember from history class, essentially we were going through the Great Depression, through the early 1930s, and then essentially what kind of helped us is getting into the war, which is why war probably to this day is still pretty big business. I mean, in terms of like government control, it was probably the most socialistic we've ever been, with the government just basically choosing factories and saying, hey, you're making this for us now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot to be said about times of need, whether you agree with the need or not.
we're tiptoeing the line here in opinions, but when when people are actively bombing us, I think it's a little bit different than.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anybody disagrees with the statement that there was a time in our history that wars were fought for more definitive reasons.
Yes.
Whereas it's a lot
Today,
harder to make that, when Congress stopped really declaring official wars and we started fighting people without uniforms.
Yeah.
It's a very different world out there. It's a
Yeah.
very different world out there. And that's coming from somebody who's been in those quote unquote shithole countries, that Donald Trump mentioned. Like, I mean, I was in Afghanistan and, I personally, I love the army stories with the guys that were working with the locals. And it's like, I mean, yeah, there's horrendous stories. I mean, there was a Veterans Day 5K that was bombed on Bagram when I was there. But, there's just as many stories as army soldiers going out into villages and making friends with them and trying to figure out how they can help and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's just a long roundabout way to say that it's all pretty complicated and all of that's got nothing to do with taxes. So,
Yeah. Off topic, card number 4 today.
So, but
Back to 1940.
yeah, so 1940, the tax rate
94%.
was 94%.
Imagine working as a whatever and making 6% of your income.
Yeah.
I think I would quit.
I don't know what I would do, but
Yeah.
it wouldn't be pretty. Yeah, and then but all that's to say that basically in 2018 the highest tax rate is 37%.
Yeah.
That was established in 2018. So
But that's still, it is probably appropriate in some regards, but imagine working your tail off. I can't imagine any of these jobs are easy or they have come with little work. And to get there and to be taxed nearly 40% of your income is pretty gnarly to me. So I think taxes in general are just a waste of money, but that's
I mean that's
so.
the thing is you and I. I'd say me a little bit more so, but maybe not even because you've worked with the government in so many capacities as far as like medical regulation and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like you've done a lot of research and done a lot of cool things, so I'm not going to discount that. But I mean, I firsthand have physically seen, my unit at the end of the year saying, "Shit, guys, we got $40,000. If we don't spend it, we won't get it next year." And it's like,
Yeah.
good. Like,
Yeah.
what do you? I don't. Where's the problem with
Yeah.
that? Like, if you don't need it, don't use it. Give it back.
Yeah.
Like that's not your money. So
Well, that's part of the problem. Like I know that applies to construction too. I've seen people like they have to order stuff. Like, why can't you just use what you need and then ask
Yeah.
for more, or don't or give it back? Like you said.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it always blew my mind, and it was 100% a thing that was utilized in every office throughout the entire military. I promise you, there's not a single unit within the military that doesn't look at their budget at the end of the year and go, "Shit, we need to spend that money."
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a fact of the military, and that's excluding the taxpayers' money that is spent on paying for plastic and paper products vastly overpriced. There was that whole fiasco about like the military found out they were paying like $100 per paper cup for office,
Oh, gosh.
stuff like
Yeah.
that. I mean, the thing is if the federal government's fitting the bill, companies will 100%
Yeah.
overcharge them. And if the government is in affiliation with, a company vis-a-vis, national defense like Dick Cheney and,
That movie.
15 years ago.
Yeah.
The movie. Real life. Real life. That one movie about Dick Cheney,
Yeah.
what was it called? Cheney?
No, it was called Dick, wasn't it? Wasn't it?
I don't know. That was the title of my autobiography, so I'm not sure. But no, you've got these people in the government that are affiliated with private companies. And so they basically give sweetheart deals. I mean, and that's something that exists in the judicial system. That's something, that happens within the military all the time. So, I mean, if you've got a defense contractor, and sometimes that means missiles, and then sometimes that just means like silverware for the dining facility, the government's fine with overpaying. And that all comes bringing it back around. That comes at the expense of the taxpayer. So that was a cute moment.
That
by
was
the way.
timed.
Yeah.
Candid. Now we're gonna make out on camera, and then.
So-
Talking about wasted materials, we talked about this outside. What was the number? It was supposedly reported 80 billion, and then somebody was like, "Oh my God, that's so wrong. It was only 30 billion."
Oh, you want to talk about Afghanistan
Yeah.
right now? You really want to get my blood hot?
Yeah. We left behind. Everyone knows the story. We left behind a metric shit ton of weapons, full tanks, stuff that apparently even some U.S. soldiers haven't even touched yet.
So I want to step back for just a split second and say, as much as this may seem like a typical ADHD tangent from your boys on the Always Average podcast, this is taxpayer money. This is stuff that you paid for. And I feel like that's an important distinction, because if you realize that that's the case, it's going to upset you just as much as it upsets me on a daily basis.
We're going to get to the number, but I think it's 13% of your total taxes you pay every year, even from the bottom percentage, is going to the defense budget.
See, and that's why I wasn't even sure if I wanted to use his numbers or my numbers, because he's talking about 13% of 40,000. Essentially, or the tax money of 40,000. So that if you make $40,000,
I think it applies regardless. I think they're just breaking it down per somebody who makes $40,000 and then into
but it was 13% of the tax money that they paid. So so the example that we're using on a personal level is if you make $40,000 a year, the federal income tax is going to be $7,000. So you're going to bring home a net of $32,000. Now, out of that $7,930, or 13.2%, is going to the national defense budget. Now, if you look at that on a national scale, what that looks like is 11% of the of the budget is going towards national defense, or $754.8 billion with a B dollars. So, and that goes a little bit towards defense-related activities, which whatever the hell that means.
And I feel like that's not even like the full disclosure, because I think we have to disclose. I heard this somewhere, and I can't even reference it right now, but it's like we pay $35,000 for a toilet or something like that, or $11,000 for a hammer. It's like, oh, well, there goes the B-2 stealth bomber nobody talked about.
I mean, my real problem with the government is it's so complicated at this point. Where does stuff go? Like, if something gets declassified, where does that go? Where can I read that? Like, I mean, somebody seems to find it, but that's something I want to get into in the future. Is you always hear like, oh, recent documents declassified. Where do they post those?
Yeah.
Is there a requirement? Can I read them?
On the back catalog of the newspaper on the back side of the White House.
Because I've got a lot of free time, and I'd really like to see if I can get into some of that. But anyways, so some of that goes to atomic energy defense activities, which also it's like that's a phrase that the military uses. What does that even mean? That could be,
Well, I'm an aquatic engineer, also known as a plumber.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, okay, does that mean that you specifically use that $25 billion to go protect Chernobyl and Ukraine with like a couple of jets? Is that what I don't know. And then of course, like they're like 717 billion goes to the Department of Defense. So the Department of Defense is what we usually focus on when we're talking about the defense budget anyways, which it's 95% of the defense budget. So that's really all you need to know. But I mean, even within that, I mean, we spend billions and billions of dollars on F-35s, which at this point are basically a failed program.
Yeah.
F-22s, I don't think are faring much better.
I thought the F-22s were pretty good. It's just we don't have that many of them.
I could see it kind of going both ways. So the F-35s, everybody thought the technology at the time was cool because they had that kind of Harrier aspect where they just kind of took off vertically. And that's a lot of moving parts. People don't think about the maintenance on that, but that's a lot of moving parts. And guess what? Stuff breaks.
And it's the government.
Yeah.
Anytime, if you're a gun guy, mil spec is like the worst thing you could get.
Yeah.
Mil spec, like that's,
Yeah.
That's basically like Walmart brand.
If somebody says military grade, my heart stops. For a second. I was like, so it's going to break after using it twice? Like, what do you mean? Yeah. I don't understand.
What was that joke in the Chernobyl show? It's like, what does a Russian apple cutter cost or like take to work or something? I forget it. But it's like basically it doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, it's Russian, so there you go. Although I'm not sure that we're faring much better. The F-35s, have been a shit show basically from the beginning of the program. And F-22s are
I know
the
we
double
lost.
engine.
They're a fighter, I think.
Yeah, well, okay, so the way fighters work, so I was an F-16 mechanic. So F-16 is a single engine fighter. I believe the F-35 is a single engine fighter. The F-22 is the double engine fighter. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like the next version of the F-15.
I think so.
So you kind of want the F-15 and the F-16 for different reasons. They do different stuff. The F-16 is a little bit more of the workhorse of the Air Force, at least. But the problem with the single engine is that like it basically becomes a flying lawn dart after the engine goes out. That being said, you can get a lot more thrust out of two engines, but you get a lot more maneuverability out of one. So basically, Lockheed or whoever the hell designed these two shit shows decided that they were going to come up with a similar concept. They were going to have a single engine fighter and a double engine fighter. So hence the 22 and the F-35. They came up with a bunch of other numbers and names, but the two that the government said we want to buy those and contract them, it ended up being those two. So just a little bit into how that works, but to be honest, they're both baloney.
Yeah.
We've been using the basic schematics for the F-16 for like 50 years now.
Isn't it still like one of the most advanced of the...
Well, so what it is that we update it. So, I mean, the
Yeah.
thing is like the airframe is tried and true, and then we just update certain packages. So, for example, we sell brand new F-16s to Saudi Arabia and countries like that, and we teach them how to fly it. The thing is our avionics package, which is the stuff that goes in the nose of the plane that detects oncoming missiles and aircraft and stuff like that. Our avionics package is a billion years beyond whatever we're putting in there.
With a B.
Yeah, with a B.
So Clay said a million, but with a B last podcast. So we gotta preface that.
Just gonna keep ripping on you, boy.
Yeah, I think we're gonna title this one "Taxes in Our Defense Budget" instead of taxes. We probably need to go into a whole other.
We did
podcast.
get deep into it. Listen, but I'm
fine with it.
I was only in the military for 5 years, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I think it's stuff that you need to know because I do feel like there's this difference between, the warrior culture of America. I read an article on this one time and it made a lot of sense to me. It's just, we've kind of, in the last century, there's been so many drafts and large scale wars that legitimately called on such a large portion of America that everybody knew a brother, a father, an uncle, a son that joined the service. Not so much these days.
Yeah.
And so that kind of creates a division between the people that fight in those wars and the people that are at home. And so I think it's important to breach that divide a little bit to where we're not just seeing each other at Walmart and you find out that somebody's in the military and you say, thank you for your service, but you understand what that means. And like most things, there's positive and negative aspects to it.
Yeah.
And those negative aspects may not have anything to do with the soldier.
Yeah.
I got into an argument with somebody online the other day. They were like, oh, well, I'm a better human than you because I got arrested for protesting the war. And I'm like, well, good for you. Seriously. I'm like, I mean, I have my opinion about that and I'm not going to give it on this podcast. But what I will say is that, are you any better or worse of a person? Because I saw the Twin Towers fall and I decided that my father served for 20 years and I wanted to serve my country like my father did. So what? We may have disagreements on the war. I may agree with you on the fact that we shouldn't be certain places.
Yeah.
All of that is irrelevant. The fact is that some people choose, some people don't choose to join the military. And I don't think that every person that joins the military, even if the cause is not maybe the grandest, if they've got their reasons, good on you.
Yeah.
You're making sacrifices. It's a hard thing to do.
It's like being a policeman. It's demonized today, even though 99% of them are in it for good reasons and do good work.
Yeah, and I would argue that when it comes to the military-industrial complex, it's not even the individuals, soldiers, airmen, sailors that are making these poor decisions.
Yep.
It's the government officials that are saying that we need to get involved into stuff, and then you find out when we get there that we've been lied to or we've been had.
Back to F the government. Taxation is theft.
Bingo.
Yeah. Okay, so now that we've had a full military off tangent...
Dare I say it, a meltdown.
Well, the moral of the story is we left a metric shit ton of guns in Afghanistan at your expense, your taxpayers' expense. And I love the example you used. It was a great example. You said if Elon Musk sent $30 billion of shit off to the moon and left it there.
Well, let's step it back first. I saw one thing where it was like, sorry, because the number was 80 billion at first, and then somebody was like, I'm sorry, but our president wouldn't have left $80 billion worth of stuff over in Afghanistan. It was actually closer to $30 billion, to which my reply was, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
That's so much better.
Yes. With a B.
Yeah, with a B.
Yes.
We left $30 billion at the least of stuff in Afghanistan.
And even if it's $1 billion, I think anything you used an example. If you left a flashlight, you got your ass reamed, right?
Yeah. I mean, it depends
It's-
if you're an officer or not. I mean, I was told that if you left a gun, in the latrine or something like that, which is a kinder way to say the shitter, then, you would probably get sent back home for it. But an officer does it and everything's fine. I mean, it's the same thing. It's like an airman, leaves a thing where he shouldn't have or does something that he shouldn't be doing, and it's fine. Or he'll get reamed for it or raked over the coals or fired or Article 15. None of that's going to make sense to you. But if you're the government doing it,
Yeah.
then
It's like, oopsie.
well, that's
Yeah.
okay.
But no, the example you said is Elon sends a rocket to the moon and leaves $30 billion worth of stuff, and his investors are like, what the hell?
Yeah,
You
knowing
know?
full well that his whole mission is to bring everything back
Yeah.
to Earth that he can, because that's how you make space travel more fiscally responsible.
Yeah, cost efficient.
What if Elon Musk just left $30 billion worth of shit on the moon that he could have reused?
Yeah.
His shareholders would shit actual rockets.
Flaming rockets coming out of their butts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
That's our very, very off tangent. So
but let's go back to some of the other statistics, though.
I think we'll do another one on taxes and like investing, but just to go over this graph, PBS, it's called 2 Cents on YouTube. They did it, and the title is how do tax dollars get spent? So this person makes $40,000 a year, and she has a tax deduction of like $10,000, so she's taxed on like 29 or 30,000 of her income. So 7,000 of that 30 goes to the federal government, and that's what not counting state income tax, which I just discovered this year in the state of Virginia, and that sucks. Because you think that your taxes are taken out, like, oh yeah, federal with nope. The state does not. You have to do that all on your own, unless your company really like works with them. But
So I messed up and I joined the military out of Alabama. And so the military always considered my original address Alabama. So they always taxed me from Alabama. It didn't matter if I lived in Afghanistan, if I lived in South Carolina, if
how
I
do
lived
the
in
taxes work
Tennessee.
in Afghanistan? Probably a little less than.
Yeah, well, I mean, so listen, if you're from like an income, federal income free, like, or if you don't get income tax taken out of your paycheck, I think Afghanistan specifically works in different ways. Like, I know people that if you work there for a certain amount of time, they basically have cutouts with the government that it's like, if you're willing to work here for a year instead of 6 months, we'll do your paycheck 100% tax free. So like my grandmother married this one dude, and I say that so flippantly because she's married 9 men. I was going to say dudes. Dudes. 9 dudes.
She married 8 guys, 1 woman, and a cat.
And so he would work for 6 months at 75% or a year at 100% tax-free, essentially. So the government's got different carve-outs for anything, including their friends, but that's neither here nor there.
In Afghanistan,
State
income tax sucks. Is what I'm trying.
Yeah,
to say.
yeah. And Alabama would screw me every single year. I'm like, I don't even live there. And it's like, I don't care what the tax thing is going on. Alabama will say that they need money. Like Alabama has never owed me. I have always owed them.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll never live there again. I'll live in Ardmore, which is split between Alabama and Tennessee, and I'll live on the Tennessee side. I will never live in Alabama again.
Well, it just goes to show the difference because I live in Virginia, you live in Tennessee,
Yeah.
and Tennessee, no income tax. Virginia, state income tax.
Yeah, and
Sucks.
we live literally like 5 minutes away from each other. So
I will say the roads are a little bit nicer in Virginia, though.
Okay, well, so that's an argument to be had about
States' rights and
yeah, but who should be dictating that? I mean, I've got a lot more, I guess, leeway, with the local,
states,
the state government.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Agreed 100% because you can, for the most part, you can see the changes like you talked about with the mayor.
Yes.
Fix the damn potholes,
Yeah, it's like getting involved with politics. I was always mad about all this federal stuff going on, and my buddy goes, "Dude, just get involved in local politics. A, you're gonna find that you're making a lot more of a difference, and B, you're gonna see a lot more of the results."
True.
And it just totally changed my mindset. And it's like, okay, yeah, I still get on my podcast and I rant about federal bullshit, but that being said, when we find a stable home, I'm gonna try to get involved in local politics. So, anyways,
be the change you want to see. It's a good way to look at it. Yes.
Well said.
Okay, back to this, which probably should have been done in the first 3 minutes. $40,000. So immediately of the 7,000 that is for the government, 33,000 of that, 43% is going to Social Security and Medicare. So that's wages and healthcare for old people.
So I would like to make a planned tangent and just say that if we don't figure out something with some of our social safety net aspects, it's going to go bankrupt. And I looked somewhere to find like, hey, what are our options? And I don't know. This website is aptly named The Motley Fool because they're Katie Brockman in September 9th, 2021 put out this article. Is Social Security going to be bankrupt or going bankrupt? 3 reasons not to worry. And my favorite thing is that her first response is Congress may find a solution between 2034. How often can people screw up and you just continually say they'll figure it out?
Yeah.
You know, I feel like we don't
The good
give
news is they gave themselves that raise, so now they're going to be working even harder.
we don't give people in our own family this much credit. I
Yeah.
swear to God, it's almost a disease. People that
Yeah.
are willing to give this much credit to politicians that have no idea who you are.
Yes.
That's why when like a lot of the stuff, either pro or against, stuff going on in Florida, there was this argument when a lot of that was going down. It was like, you want control over my kids, or you want to tell me what they can and can't see, or they can and can't do. What are their names? What are their names? What are their interests?
Yeah.
You don't know them. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's even on a local level. You go to the federal level, they don't know you exist.
Yes.
You are literally one of 336 million dickheads living in a country that they have majority control over every other term.
Yeah.
So I just loved the fact they were like, Congress may find a solution between 2034.
The number one, yeah.
Yeah. And then their second one was Social Security won't actually go bankrupt. They're only going to lose 22% of the income being given. I mean, it doesn't say anything what happens past that.
Yeah.
There's only this thing that like, yeah, the trust funds is going to run out in 2034. But, after that, there's only a 22% cut. We're only complaining about how they're not getting enough, but it's only a 22% cut. And if that doesn't happen, the government will figure it out.
It's the perfect meme. It's like everything is fine, but the house is on fire.
Yeah,
He's just drinking his coffee.
It just blows my mind.
So yeah, you're paying into something you might not be able to access in the future. 43% of this $40,000, which I guess can be probably just ramped up to however much you make in terms of income. So 43% of your income is...
So actually, real quick, so what we'll do is roughly speaking, I've got a chart. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Okay, so basically... well, this is the taxing the rich, but do they pay their fair share? But yeah, so there's certain income brackets. Oh no, that was on this page. Yeah, so the lowest income bracket is going to be 10%
of your total income
from 0 to 10,000.
Taxable income. Sorry.
Yep. If 10 to 41 is going to be 12, 41 to 89 is going to be 22, 89 to 170 is going to be 24%, 170,000 to 215,000 is going to be 32%, 215,000 to 539,000 is going to be 35%, with 530,000 or more at 37%. So just an idea, and that's 2022. So that is what you will be taxed next year if you fall in within any of these brackets. So presumably, she's paying 12%. At about 40,000.
Yeah. They mentioned 15 in here, but I'm sure those numbers are
Yeah.
going to be updated or
Yeah.
changed.
Yeah. So this is what 2022 is going to be, and then obviously if she made a little bit more than 40,000, if she made 42,000, she'd be 22%. So a 10% increase. And I think that's pretty interesting to note.
Yeah.
A 10% increase from the difference between making 41,000 and 42,000.
I saw an article on that. It was like, do you want a raise or something? And the guy's like, no, because now I get bumped up to the next tax bracket.
Yeah.
So something to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking
Being
at
informed
I'm going to be looking at getting a job that's going to make 45, and if I ask for a raise, I mean, I'm already in that percentage,
Yeah.
and I don't think I'm going to hit another one until 89%. So I don't know. I'm not going to make less than 45. So yeah, I mean, so you may not have an option, but he makes a good point. That Aaron makes a good point that if you're going to be taxed 10 more percentage points on the difference between 41 and 42,
is it worth the raise?
you might just choose not to.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe see if you can talk to your boss and say, hey, can we not give me a raise for 5 years and then make that raise $10,000? Because I
Yeah.
can maybe get behind that. So,
Yeah.
all right.
But back to the pie graph, 43% for those, and then we've got 15% for health programs, Medicaid and CHIP, which is just lower income. Medicaid is basically healthcare for poor people.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many people know the difference between Medicare and Medicaid, if you want to give that description. I learned it in social work program, but
Medicare is for old people. Medicaid is for poor people, in the most crude, simplest terms.
that's a bit insensitive, but I'm about it.
Well, I have Medicaid right now, so
Direct and
it's,
to the point.
Or had Medicaid. I don't know. I had it while I was in graduate school because I was 26, and that's when you get kicked off your parents' health insurance.
Yeah.
And I read on LMU's website that they have health insurance. I'm like, oh, cool, just get it there. Yeah, they're like, yeah, we canceled that. We don't have that anymore. I'm like, okay, cool. Now I have no income and no health insurance. So
yeah, Tennessee's fun. Tennessee's fun because they count student loans as income when it hurts you, and then they don't count it as income when it would help you.
Oh,
Yeah,
do they?
Yeah, it's very interesting. So, like when Madeline and I tried to get health, and before we got married, and we tried to get her on Medicaid, they wouldn't give it to her. They wouldn't give her TennCare because they counted the student loan money as money. And then now we're buying a house, and she can't get a loan. She can't be on the loan for the house because they don't count the income as income.
Nice.
So yeah,
it's like the meme for the government. It's like the American one. It's like our profits.
Yeah,
and then it's
yeah.
like the communist meme or the I'm sorry, the communist meme for it's like our profits.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the American meme, it's like your losses.
yeah,
So,
yeah. It's the same
yeah,
thing. Yeah,
it's
yeah. We win, you lose. We lose, you lose harder.
yes. You can't actually report your losses, and I think we're going to do a whole nother episode with finances and investing and what.
Yeah, so I think it does play a specific role when it comes to investing, and we've talked about real estate just to each other. So
Yeah.
I think this is unfortunately more of just a ranting about the government, but I think it's things that we need to know because people are very militant in their beliefs right now, and there's this general feeling that the top 1% or so, as Elizabeth Warren may put it or something like that, aren't paying their fair shares. But the top 1% makes 20% of all the income in the country, and they pay 40% of all net taxes.
Yeah.
In fact,
where is this? It's heritage.org.
yeah,
still, right?
heritage.org still. So
It has a very good graph, and I wish we could throw that up on the screen, but we're getting there.
yeah, and we may put it on Instagram. So
Yeah.
like I said in the last podcast, if you want to follow us on Instagram, always_average.
Mm-hmm. And the YouTube, don't
yep.
forget that. Always average, always dot. What is the YouTube? Hold on, I'll pull it up right now. Because wasn't always average taken?
I think so.
It's always average, and then it's got our symbol there. I think YouTube allows you the same symbol. So,
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
So as long as you see our AA black and white, always average, you'll know it's us. You'll know it's legit. So anyways, but yeah, basically the top 50% pays almost all of the net taxes in the whole country. I mean, the top 50% pays 97% of all net taxes. The bottom 50%, $40,000 a year and under, pays 3% of all net taxes.
Yeah.
So as far as this ratio is concerned, there's not a single group that, quote unquote, is not paying their fair share according to the numbers, that's not overly paying their fair share. If you want to get technical, is like 25 or the top 50% to the top 10%. So like, for example, the top 1% makes 21%, but they're paying 40%.
So they make, if we had $100, the top 1%, so the top 1% of people are making 21 of that $100.
But they're paying 40 in taxes.
They're having to give away 40
Yeah.
of it.
And so that plays out through the 2 to 5%. They pay more than they earn. The top 5 to 10% pays exactly the same as they earn. The bottom 50% pays a lot less than they earn, but there is a little bit of the basically 25 to 50% paying less, and the top 10% to 25% paying less. So really, it's not until you start getting $150,000 and more that you start paying a lot more taxes than the population of people making that income, essentially. The amount of money that population is earning. So, but that's all.
This graphic is really, if you're not understanding that, this graphic is really going to help. So go to our Instagram page, and we'll make sure that that's up there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the moral of the story is, what I wanted to tie in with this is investments and things like that. The way the rich get out of these tax situations is, I was talking with Clay, and the person who owns the most farmland in the United States right now, I think, is Bill Gates. Why? Because he can count that as a tax deduction for farmland. And also, when everyone thinks that, like, oh, Jeff Bezos has $200 billion just sitting in a lair in a vault, at his mansion in Cabo or wherever it is.
Yeah.
No, his net worth is established based on his stock valuation. He owns a controlling portion of Amazon,
Which is ever changing.
which is correct. And it is valued at 199, whatever the valuation is.
Yeah. And so maybe he pulls out money through a corporate salary that they've established with the board.
Yes.
Or like we were talking earlier. There's this one guy who's worth $20 billion in this one stock, and the only way he could actually spend money is by using that stock price as collateral for a bank loan. So he pulled out $20 billion worth essentially in bank loans. The financial district doesn't just operate in such a fluid, like a cash fluid state that we all assume it does. People assume that Jeff Bezos is just swimming around in his cash. And it's like, yeah, the man's got a lot of money, but it's not really coming from the ways that we think it is. Like it's probably company established, private jets. And
Well, part of the way is they take out loans. He takes out loans and leverages that money against his stock.
Yeah.
And that way he's using loans to pay for a lot of this stuff. And he can...
as long as Amazon is doing well, banks are going to be able to leverage that money.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because you talked about leverage before, and it was basically we're betting $100 with $1.
Yeah.
The bank is okay with doing that because it's Jeff freaking Bezos. So that's the thing is when you're ultra wealthy and you've got all this stuff going on, and when we say ultra wealthy, we obviously mean in stock value, you've got more options afforded to you. Banks are going to try to figure out how they can loan you money because at the end of the day, it's going to give them back money.
Yes.
So it's beneficial to them. So when we're talking about these people with outrageous sums of money, it's not in the way that you think it is. So it's not really able to be taxed in the way that you want it to be.
You can't tax what a stock is potentially worth.
Yeah.
You have to sell it to called realized gains.
And it just doesn't make any sense to me because people are actively talking about trying to do this. And it's like, Warren Buffett said in 2008 housing crisis, somebody goes up to him and says, "You lost $3 billion." He goes, "I didn't sell any stock.
I didn't lose anything.
I didn't lose anything. All I have to do is sit here and wait. And then those stock values are going to go back up eventually." So I think we need to be more realistic about who the real enemy is because, I'm not trying to make a militant podcast or anything like that, but I just feel like we're crapping all over Jeff Bezos.
We're not really Tuesdays at 7.
We just the real crooks are elected. Like I'm not saying Jeff Bezos is the best person in the world either, but at the same time, you at least have the free market capacity to work at a different company.
And the thing is, all of you who are doing this all have Apple products, all buy from Amazon, all drink your Starbucks coffee. So
iPhone, MacBook,
And it's capitalism. It's the most fair system. If I wanted to create a website called Sahara, which that's a great name actually compared to Amazon, and start my own Amazon, I could do it. There's nothing stopping me. I can do it right now on my computer.
Yeah.
So to say like we need this, I don't know, going back into politics, but there's ways that the rich get these tax breaks. So to have it fair across the board, I think the most fair thing, and this was mentioned by a buddy in one of my Discords, is you have a flat tax rate.
Well, flat tax was really popular with I don't remember if it was with the Democrat convention, but I remember in 2016 because I was watching a lot because I was seeing what Donald Trump was doing to the other candidates. He was literally making their minds explode. Like I remember candidates that seemed slightly reputable just literally looked like the biggest weirdos ever because Donald Trump just got into their head and their brains would explode. So I remember watching that clown car and a lot of the politicians were talking about flat tax rates. That was a super big thing in the last couple of decades. And to me, it seems to make the most sense too, if you even believe in that kind of stuff. But I don't know how much that I do. I mean, the government, so we had a budget of like 4.5 or 4.6 billion or trillion, sorry, with a T.
With a T.
With a T.
With a B.
We're at a T now. $1 trillion. And this year we're going to spend $6.82 trillion.
I almost want to, hold on. I want to, there's like a great.
I'm pretty sure a trillion is 1,000 billions.
I think that's it.
Yeah. Which is kind of insane.
So $1 trillion, how many $100 bills would stack up? So 1 million is in $100 bills would stack up 3 feet high. $1 billion would stack up 0.6 miles. $1 trillion would be 631 miles into space.
Does it
is that space? That's feet. Yeah, that would be in space.
Yeah, the atmosphere.
Yeah, so the space station is 248 miles. So we would be halfway to the moon.
Okay.
Not quite, but you get the point.
Well, then all Elon Musk has to do, fuck rockets.
Yeah.
We're just going to stack cash.
Just stack his money.
We're just
Yeah.
going to stack cash, son. Okay. But bringing it back to the government, what bothers me, and I think kind of what started at least some desire to want to talk about some of this kind of stuff, is the fact that the national debt's currently at $30 trillion with a T. The federal tax revenue only brings in $4 trillion each year. So between last year, where we were kind of under budget, I guess, versus this year, we're $2 trillion in a deficit. There are currently 23 million with an M employees of the federal government.
I find that you told me that, and I was like, no way.
Oh yeah, I haven't even brought up the best part. So there are 23 million employees in the government, and just for context, the fifth most populous state is Pennsylvania with 12 million. And then the fourth is New York with 19. The third is Florida with 21. And the second is Texas with 29. So California has 39. But my point with all of this is that the state of Florida has 21 million people in it. And the government has 3 million, 2 million, 2 million more employees than the entire state of Florida.
It's, yeah.
And I can think of a lot of ways to cut that down. I mean, I don't know. To me, that's just an alarming statistic.
Are we counting like the street sweepers? Or is that
okay? So to be fair, I don't know. I don't know if that's counting state government or whatever. But I could at the very least think of several thousands of dollars worth and billions of dollars worth of money
with a B
to get rid of. A lot of that debt.
The point we're trying to make is there's so much waste out there. So be smart with your money, and know, just know that the government is not really working for you. Everyone is always like, big government, they're your friend, and I'm like, no, they're not.
Well, yes,
no, they're not.
Yeah, and I think my problem is the more we get politicized on opposite ends of the spectrum, I feel like. One side, depending on the issue, looks more to the government for those answers. And it's like you live in a community with people that are your neighbor. Like, you're so busy arguing with what eggheads in Washington, D.C. are doing that you're turning that animus on people in your own neighborhood that don't see things the way that you see things.
Yeah.
And I feel like, nationally speaking, we've got our priorities misaligned.
Yeah.
And I feel like we need to focus more on our community and who the real people that affect our lives should be.
Mm-hmm. And people, and to go off that, people are like, well, what'd you vote in your local election? So I didn't vote.
Yeah.
What do you expect to change?
Yeah.
Like everyone thinks like the president is just a placeholder.
Well, so to be fair, it should be. Yeah. And it should be. And I would argue that over the last 20 years, it has become not the case. And that's where I have a problem with both left, right, and center, is that the government has been the big winner over the last 20 years.
Yeah.
No matter what, that's where the power's gone. That's where the money's gone. So that's what really frustrates
20%
me.
Congress raise.
Yeah.
Bringing that back up.
Yeah. So
I think we've gone well long enough. I don't know. Do you have anything else to talk about? We're at 50 minutes here already.
No, at this point, if you're still listening, God bless you. I mean,
this got off topic pretty quickly with that. But
I mean,
that's us, and you guys know that. I think a lot of people like that. So
well, I also just think that there's some things where you can avoid politics. I think when it comes to taxation, I think there's no avoiding it. I think we can.
It wasn't even really political, though. We were stating facts about things that happened and how politicians failed us. That's not political.
No, fair enough.
So it's like I said, it's pretty obvious to see where we lie in a lot of these issues. But that's leaving $30 billion worth of shit behind is not political. That's a mistake. It doesn't.
It's also something we don't talk about now.
Yeah,
it was gone from the media. It was gone from the public consciousness.
COVID had a rise the next day.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, it was it was gone that quick, and unfortunately, we're back at each other's throats even quicker than the Taliban was oppressing women. So
yeah, it's you lose that money at your job, you're fired.
Yeah,
and our government gives himself a raise. That's what we're trying to say. So.
Yeah, your neighbor's not the real enemy.
Yep.
So, And that's, we love you guys. We want you to be our neighbor, and we want you to not hate yours. So
And don't leave $30 billion worth of stuff behind.
if you're ever put in that position
With a B.
please don't. All right. Anyways, love you guys.
Always average.
Signing off.